Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Miami Hurricanes Talk with Danny, presented by Spotify. By the way, Canes Connection. Please, if you get a chance, support them today. The description will be in the banner here on StreamYard. And my guest this week is Greg Haas, one of the voices of Tuffy Talk out of North Carolina. Playoff game for all intents Saturday for the Canes. Home finale against NC State, 3:30 be on ESPN. Greg has a few minutes to join us. Greg, thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Let's get to the game 2 weeks ago against Georgia Tech. Since NC State had a bye week last week. CJ Bailey, what can you say about him? The talk here with our fan base in Miami is if he transfers, he goes into the portal, the talk is Miami will make a play for him. When I see the numbers last week, I can understand why. Tell us about how they dominated Georgia Tech 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it really started up front with the offensive line. Duke Scott had almost 200 yards rushing. I think he ended up with like 196. So the game was really set up there. And when NC State can set up the run, it makes CJ Bailey a lot smoother and calm in the pocket. And so he's even more efficient, especially when you can get him into a rhythm. And yeah, it was a great game.
Yes, it was. And there's a chance. Now, Hollywood, I think, what's the status on Hollywood? The thing is, he's questionable this week. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think he's going to end up playing. You mentioned earlier we had the bye, so he didn't play against Georgia Tech. That gave Duke Scott his first opportunity to shine in the Wolfpack uniform. So I think he'll be back this week. I don't know how effective or how efficient he would be, but yeah, we're definitely going to need the run game against that stout Miami defense.
Yeah, which we'll get to here. Hold on. The thing that worries me, Greg, and I think it should worry you, be the defense. You allow 59 yards 2 weeks ago against Georgia Tech. What are they doing to try to shore that up going to a hostile environment like Miami?
Yeah, we really took it in the portal. During the offseason, we lost a lot of, our number ones. We haven't kind of backfilled them as well as we probably would like. Plus, we've been gutted by injuries. I think right now we're down 5 or 6 starters from the beginning of the season. So that doesn't help the situation. The defense really relies on a bend, don't break kind of perspective. We beat Georgia Tech and then we beat Virginia. And they both got a lot of yards against us, but where we really stood tall was in the red zone, holding them to field goal opportunities. And I think in order to be successful against Miami, we're going to have to kind of do the same type of work.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was going to get to that point also. The single most important factor in this game for NC State to win this game, what would that be?
Match touchdown for touchdown. I really think that we're going to have to score and then score often and keep scoring to kind of keep pace with the Miami offense. When you look at these two teams, they're pretty much evenly matched on offensively. It's where the defense is really the separator for the two teams.
Yeah, question I was going to get to that, Greg. How is Garrett Tugay, the offensive line coach, preparing their tackles, Peake and Anderson, to deal with Bain and Mesidor?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to see some double teams. You're going to have to pick up with the running back. Duke and Hollywood both pick up the rush pretty well. So I think you're going to have to do some chipping and kind of picking up some stuff. And then, CJ may have to make some, first type reads, go to his primary or get the ball out hot. So I would hope that they'll, get and see if I could just back up for a second. CJ sometimes has a tendency to hold the ball a little too long, and he can't do that this week. He's going to have to get the ball out on time and make the right reads.
Yeah, no question about that. When you talk about the defense, I look at North Carolina State's defense. Assad Brown stood out to me. Caden Fordham stood out to me. But the guy that really stood out to me was Kenny Soares. Tell us about him.
Yeah, he's a guy that's had to step up for Sean Brown. For all intents and purposes, I believe Sean has a season-ending injury, even though they haven't mentioned it. Kenny's a transfer from Northwestern, who we got through the portal this year, and he has come up really big in the last couple of weeks, taking the place of Sean Brown.
Yeah, and another guy I look at, you mentioned Scott. Another guy that really would concern me would be Teddy Huffman. 3 receptions, 74 yards last week, and a touchdown. The talk here is, and it hasn't been mentioned, Miami will probably be without Keontae Scott. So tell us about that with Teddy Huffman.
Yeah, Teddy Hoffman's probably our third or fourth probably I would say our fourth wide receiver on the team. We have a really, really deep wide receiver room. It starts with Terrell Anderson, Keenan Jackson, and Noah Rogers. But Teddy's been a pleasant surprise as a true freshman out of Florida there. His touchdown came against a really bad busted coverage against Georgia Tech. So that's where you kind of see the yardage there build up. I think it was like a 55-yard touchdown. But he's a really good fourth option. You'll see him do a variety of things. He was returning punts earlier. He's kind of like just kind of a Swiss Army knife kind of guy, which NC State has had a tradition of using.
Yeah, another thing I look at, Greg, and it really stood out to me. What will be the most intriguing one-on-one matchup we see in this game?
And
and let me follow up with that. How is the North Carolina State secondary prepared to deal with guys like Tony, and we may get CJ Daniels back this week?
Yeah, so for State's secondary, which is where we've taken a lot of the hits for injury-wise, they play a lot of man-to-man, which can be dangerous at times, and the Miami offense definitely has the ability to exploit that. We've definitely simplified the defense because we have so many young kids in there. Hopefully we get Ronnie Royal back this week. And so if we get him back, that will definitely help at the safety position. But we're just going to have to be kind of opportunistic and just kind of hang tough. But it's definitely going to be, for me, it won't be necessarily one-on-one matchup, but how can the corners hold up with the Miami receivers?
Yeah, especially Tony, Daniels, if Daniels is back, etc. Another thing I wanted to say here is, who's a less heralded player that you could see for NC State making a massive impact in this game?
I mean, you could see a Duke Scott again, especially if Hollywood can't go this week. Like I said, he had his first real opportunity against Georgia Tech and ran for almost 200 yards. He's a kid that's a redshirt freshman that has shown flashes. So he's maybe a name that folks may not know from the big names, but wide receiver wise, maybe I would go like a Terrell Anderson or Keenan Jackson. We have like a Noah Rogers, who was a 5-star kid that was a transfer from Ohio State. But maybe a Keenan Jackson or Terrell Anderson can maybe step up this week.
Yeah, especially if the rumor on the street is Keontae Scott can't go from Miami, and that would be a big loss for us if we lose Scott, if Scott can't go. And the word is, from what I'm hearing last night, he probably will not go. But Ben, anyway, I'm going to ask you also, do you have a gut feeling on how this plays out on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, football is a game of I wouldn't say necessarily momentum, but just believing in yourself. And so if anything, that Georgia Tech game has given, a resurgence to the belief of this team that they can compete on a high level with, top quality programs. We hung with Notre Dame for about 3.5 quarters, and then that kind of got away from us in the fourth quarter. So we've played some good teams close. If we can just keep it kind of just hanging around, we have a chance. I do think Miami will prevail. It's a tall task to kind of just go in there, especially with our depleted defense and Miami's offense. And we haven't even talked about how good Fletcher is, and you already know that.
And we all know about Fletcher.
Yeah.
They're saying he's a game time decision. Right? They're saying right now he's probably not going to go, but we'll see what happens. We'll wait for the injury report tomorrow to come out on that. But the rumor here is the Keontae Scott got hurt in practice, I think Monday or yesterday. It's on Tuesday, and it's probably out for a significant time, maybe the rest of the season. And that's going to hurt. That hurts. That's the rumor going around. Okay, Greg, let me wrap it with this. Here's the way I look at it. I think Canes win 31-14 in this game. The reason I say that is this is a playoff game, and every week's a playoff game for Miami from here on out. 2, you can't turn the ball over. They haven't done that. They've done a good job with protecting the football. But Carson Beck, to me, needs to have a solid game. against that, like I said, depleted NC State defense. It's senior day. There's a lot on the line. My prediction: 31-14. Canes win this ball game.
Yeah, I have State covering. I do have Miami winning. I think it's going to be more of like a more of a shootout. Especially if Scott can't go. I think our wide receivers could really exploit that. We've got some really good wide receivers, and if CJ has time to throw, and if we get Justin Jolie back, who's a really big tight end, he could be a weapon. Scott, because we're going to need all of our weapons this week. I do have the Canes winning, but State covering. I have 38-28 Miami over State.
Okay, that's about sound. I would sound about right. Greg, to get you out of here on this, what's the best way for your listeners to connect with you or follow your work? And any final thoughts you want to leave our audience with?
Yeah. So anyone that wants to follow NC State, you can follow us over at Tuffy Talk now. We're on YouTube, Spotify. We're on all the platforms. We're on social media at Tuffy Talk. We love covering NC State. We cover all NC State sports. Just really appreciate you having us on to kind of talk a little ball today. I'm headed down to Miami in the morning for the game. That'll be my 51st game in a row, home and away. So got a streak going, and looking forward to some Cuban sandwiches and warm weather.
Yeah, it's warm. It's been a little cool here in Tampa, but yeah. Listen, Greg, thanks for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. Safe travels to South Florida. Enjoy the stay. We'll talk again down the road.
Absolutely. Go Pack.
Okay. Hey, Greg.